that you hold the pen. What will you write today? What do you have to say?
You ask such questions that are way more personal than your average podcast. I like going to deeper places. That's why we do music, and that's where our music comes from. Getting to do an interview that feels like music, that's beautiful.
Today's guest is a Broadway performer currently in John Proctor's The Villain. Please welcome to the Zoom, Nihar Duvvuri.
Hey,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, doing good. It's a nice day out finally in New York, so I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm so excited for this conversation. I always start behind the resume by talking about how we met, and we're literally meeting right now. But I think it's interesting, and I'm sure you're probably curious too, how I reached out. I was in a casting director class the other week, and the casting director, Shannon Corey, was talking about how she was casting a short, and she had all of these established actors audition, and then you had some self-submitted.
Yeah.
And she just was saying how incredible you were. And now you had done, multiple shows on Broadway. And I was sitting there and I was like, wow, I need to hear his story. And so I looked you up, reached out to your representation, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Oh, yeah, I love Shannon. She's very sweet.
Oh, she's so, so kind. Let's just start from the beginning. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from California. I was born and raised there, grew up there my whole life. My parents are from India. They came here in 99, and then I was born in 2003, and I've been there since. And then I came here about 2.5 years ago to New York. But yeah, I grew up there.
So growing up, did you have any, or still, do you have siblings?
Yeah. I have a younger sister. And she's not in the arts, but she's studying to be a psychologist. None of my family's in the arts, so definitely a pretty different route from the people around me.
So did you do theater as a kid, or how did you get into it?
No, I never did theater. We didn't have a theater program in our high school, so I didn't do theater till college. But I started out making short films in like eighth grade, just on my own.
Uh-huh.
For like, I think the first one I made was for like a school like little film contest they had, and then I ended up winning that, and I was like a little more motivated. And I started taking acting classes simultaneously, and I really got into it from there. And I like just cold submitted to agents and stuff and did a few little like projects and little short films and like commercial stuff. And so throughout high school, I was mainly doing like film, TV related things.
And was anyone in your family encouraging of that, or how did that passion come about?
I would say it was mostly myself. My mom put me in the acting class initially. I don't think she expected me to like fall in love with it the way I did. But she was definitely she was very excited for me, and they're both very supportive. So it's good. Yeah.
Were you an outgoing kid to like want to express yourself in another medium like that?
Well, I don't know. I was definitely a very like focused kid. I was very like I was always in books. I until I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. So that
Wow.
was like, yeah. So it was a huge pivot for sure. But I think the plan was always kind of to go into medicine or something like that. Like as a kid, I wanted to be a director. And that was always a dream. Like arts was always like a pipe dream for me. But then yeah, it really took like taking classes and doing it to make me realize like I could keep doing this.
Did you have role models in the arts?
No, I did have my teacher in that class I took. He really like helped me find my passion for it. His name is Vijay Vaniyarajan. He was my like first acting teacher, and he really helped me like find my basis in acting and with a focus on like script analysis. And so I think he helped me bridge that kind of academic attitude I was coming into it with, and he helped me bridge that with acting. So script analysis is such a clean pipeline for that.
Mhm.
It really is like the literary world and the script worlds, they're so similar. And like it was easy to kind of like fall into that side of acting. And then from there, I slowly found more and more passion myself. Yeah.
What about acting was so like infectious, you think?
I don't know. A lot of things. I think part of it is like, I think most actors, most artists in general, it's less about like what they want to say and more the need to say it.
Hmm.
And I think that need to express and that need to say is very much like they're in acting. I like the privacy of acting, like that actors are afforded, in the sense that like musicians and singers, they're bearing their soul to their audiences, and you know what it's about, and you know it's about them, and you can connect the dots. But with acting, audiences don't really know which parts of the character are me or which parts I'm bringing more of myself to. So there's a layer of privacy, a layer of illusion that exists, which allows me to be more free within my art because I know that there's a level of privacy that I have within it.
Hmm.
I think that it was particularly exciting to me because it allowed me to express myself in ways that I hadn't been before. But moreover, like acting and writing in general, film, like I love that medium. I grew up loving movies. Film was always where my mind was at. And just the investigation of life that's happening, like it's just in trying to find answers to these questions we all have. Like, why are we here? What do we do here? Who do we care about? What do we care about? It's all these same questions, and we're all just trying to find answers. And I think that was what was most appealing.
I've never heard anyone talk about like the privacy that acting provides in that way. That's so true. And as like an actor and a singer-songwriter, I totally understand what you're saying. As a kid, did you feel understood by other kids, or were you really like in your own world of things?
No, for sure. I felt understood. I think I was a very like I had my friends and I had things I wanted and I was in clubs and the school I went to was very academic. It was like pretty much a STEM school, though it was a public school. And being academically inclined, I think I was able to fit in pretty easily there for the most part. It was more difficult when it came to the arts. Once I like transitioned to the arts, then it was a little tricky like finding peers in the arts. Because it was only like me and my partner, actually, my girlfriend now, who we were the only people in our high school to go into the arts, into acting. So yeah, definitely like in terms of the arts, it was maybe a little ostracized in ways, but I felt really good about. I look back on my childhood very happily.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Was there a defining moment when you knew that the arts wasn't just a hobby and it was going to be your career?
Um, I don't know. I guess I honestly, the second I started eighth grade, the second I started making things myself, short films and such, and acting myself. And I really used speech and debate in high school because we didn't have a theater program. Speech and debate has these like interpretation events. So I did dramatic interpretation. And doing that really helped me find like my voice through the lens of these like texts that we're interpreting. And having that sense of like creative identity and honing in on that, that helped me feel like, oh, I have something I need to say. And I had a conversation with someone at this point, my parents still wanted me to be a doctor. So, and I set them up really high with these high expectations of that. And so we talked for like a year with my parents. And during that year, we really kind of debated everything, like whether school is necessary to be an actor, or why I wanted to be an actor, and all of it. And I think through those debates, I became more and more resolute and more had a more and more clear understanding of why I wanted it. And so I think it was that year of time that really defined like that transition into being like, yes, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. I just read Josh Gad's memoir and he was like
Oh
a
yeah.
state champion. So
I
it's
know. I've seen his oratories.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool reading about that. It sounds like such a powerful medium to express yourself besides like theater and, TV film. So during that year when you and your parents were figuring out if this was like, did they just want you to be financially stable or did they not like what was the conflict?
It wasn't just about being financially stable. I mean, it is to some extent, and especially as immigrants, as an immigrant, you are required to have a focus on security. Like, no matter where you are, having a degree means you can leave and you can have a life somewhere else if things aren't going right or if things aren't safe. And safety and security is really important for immigrants. And so those values, it was very deeply instilled in us, and it still is to this day. But even more past that, I think there's like they hoped we would be a doctor or engineer or like a lawyer or things like that, just because they came from that environment where those were the options.
Hmm.
Um, and from this kind of utilitarian point of view. Um, but part of the conversations we had were about how growing up in America, like the reason we're here is for opportunity, and the opportunities we're afforded here are different. And it was kind of like a conversation about our values more so than like about financial stability.
Wow. And you were in eighth grade at this time?
No, this was around 10th, 11th grade while I was choosing like what to apply for college.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Were your goals at the time, I mean, probably not Broadway if you didn't really grow up doing theater.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I didn't even know about, I've never seen him play at that point, or musical or anything. I think I'd listened to Hamilton maybe at that point once, and I really liked Hamilton, but that was like the most I knew about that side of things. Film and TV was where my mind was at 100%. Just because I grew up watching movies, I grew up watching a lot of Indian film as well as like Hollywood, and I loved both sides of it. I loved like my understanding of it because film especially incorporates a lot of technical elements, and that really resonated with me. Um, yeah, theater I really found my love for when I got to college.
So you decided to go to NYU, correct?
Yes, yes.
What was that application? Was that like your dream school?
Yeah, for acting, definitely. I mean, so many of my favorite actors came out of there. I wanted to be in New York. I'm from California, and so LA was like, it was too close to home. I was like, I want to be in New York. And NYU was a great time. I learned a lot there for sure in terms of acting.
Do you remember finding out when you got in?
Yeah, I think so. I think me and my friend like ditched class because we were like waiting for the admissions to come out and we got like food and then we just found out over food and it was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what year did you go to college? Because it was pandemic, right?
Yeah, I entered college fall of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Fall of 2022. Um, and I stayed there for 1.5 years, and then I left for a project. So I
Wow.
didn't finish yet. I don't know if I will. Plans are kind of up in the air. We'll see what happens.
And you enjoyed the experience?
Definitely. I mean, I think I came in knowing kind of what I wanted out of school, and I was able to get that for the most part.
It was what?
Um, I really wanted to hone in on artistic process for myself, create some kind of method for me because I had always approached acting from this instinctual place. And I really kind of wanted to intellectualize it in certain ways to expand my range. And the studio I went to within NYU, Atlantic Acting School, the method they offer, which is called practical aesthetics, is again very script analysis focused. And it really lets you kind of play with your personal connection to text in an interesting way, but still through like this intellectual approach. And I really enjoyed that, especially for just understanding story. I don't know if like it's something that I use while acting, but just simply using the method and understanding story like that, it just helps infinitely.
What were you most surprised about by being in college that you weren't expecting?
Theater kids, honestly. Like I was like, oh wow, like these people like did theater in high school. Like wow, these people know shows and musicals and they know all these like things about the shows they've been in. And I was like a blank slate at that point. But in some ways it was nice because like some people having had prior experience had to like deconstruct some of that in order to like learn this new thing. But because I had learned basically nothing at that point, it was pretty easy for me. I was a bit malleable and I could kind of fall into it pretty quick.
Was that overwhelming or you were just excited to learn?
Just excited. I've always been, I love education. I wanna keep learning. I wanna do other things too. I would love to do like physics or game design or something. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful outlook, especially in this kind of career path that can be just, really.
Chaotic, definitely.
So when did you start like self-submitting to agencies and projects online?
Ninth grade, I think. Yeah. Ninth grade was when I really started self-submitting. And then I had an agent that year. I got an agent when I had like cold submitted to a few. Um, they put me up for some stuff and I did some cool things. Mostly I was interested at that point in like writing my own things and trying to make my own things because a lot of the roles that I want to play just don't exist. Um, and speech and debate, again, that was a big part of my high school time. Like that really was where I had an artistic voice because my school wasn't artistic at all. There weren't any arts programs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you always been just super self-motivated and disciplined?
I don't know if I would call myself disciplined, but I feel motivated for sure. I mean, I want to do things. I want to leave the world better than I found it. I think art is like one way of doing that. Yeah.
For sure. Um, that's incredible. So, did you see a Broadway show when you got to New York?
Yeah. Actually, the first Broadway show I saw ever was To Kill a Mockingbird with Jeff Daniels. My family visited New York once to like see colleges and stuff, and at that same trip, I saw my first Broadway show. And that was really cool.
Did you see yourself on the stage?
No, not at all. I didn't, that was like, I was just learning about theater. I just saw it for the fun of seeing a Broadway show. And honestly, coming into college, I didn't plan on doing theater at all. I planned on doing film and TV. Like that was it. But I just fell in love with theater, especially after seeing this one show called Top Dog Underdog. It was on Broadway 2 years ago now, maybe. But that show, it's by Susan Laurie Parks. It like changed my outlook on acting and art completely. Like it expanded the boundaries of what I saw in performance, and that show like completely like brought me into theater in a new way.
Why?
It just, the performances were so physical, and what they did with that stage, on that stage that day, like you couldn't be recreated in film or couldn't be achieved in film. And that made me understand that theater is a medium different than film. And there are things that can be done with theater that all can only be done in theater. And there's a reason that theater has existed as an art form for this long, for thousands of years, because people crave real human like connection. Like even though like film can give that, like seeing real people up on stage is just a different thing. And being in the room, the audience is part of the art as well in an interesting way, and it's just a whole different experience.
So, did that experience make you want to be on Broadway?
Absolutely. I think it made me want to do theater. I don't think I was thinking about Broadway or anything at that point. I was like, oh, this is like, yeah, we want to do things like this.
Yeah. Wow. And then where were you in school at that point?
I was in my freshman year. It was actually our school that gave us tickets to the show. Yeah, so we got a bit lucky there. They let us see a lot of theater, which was really helpful.
If your younger self who never saw a play, no interest, could see you now, what do you think he'd say?
Um, I think he'd be very surprised that things went very differently than he dreamed about. Um, but I think I'm very comfortable with that because I think it's easier, especially in this career, to just kind of have no plan and see where things go as long as you're kind of being honest with your art. Yeah.
When you say different than how you thought things would pan out, did you just see yourself doing only TV film?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I don't think I ever saw myself doing theater but mainly because I just didn't know about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did then Broadway come along?
Broadway came along, um, like in the first semester of my sophomore year. By this point, I had left my previous agents who only worked in California. And since I was in New York, I was looking for new agents. And then I booked that short film, the one that you were talking about with Shannon Corey. And she ended up referring me to this manager. And she reached out to me. And Sarah Haver, she's amazing. I've been with her since. And she like got me an audition for a workshop of this show called Smash. It's a musical. And I ended up leaving school for the workshop for that. And that kind of led to then like I got more auditions and ended up in Romeo and Juliet, which was my first Broadway show.
Had you done a musical before?
No. Yeah, I hadn't done it. I don't really sing like that, but this role happened to be like he only needed to sing 4 lines total.
Uh-huh.
So I think I kind of slid through the cracks a little bit, and my acting audition was kind of there. So they were like, and it was a workshop, so I don't know. Maybe they were like, it all went well. I think I had a great time. I'd never done a musical before, but I had a fun time.
Had you done a play before?
No.
So your first on stage experience was Broadway.
Well, I guess the workshop for a Broadway show, yeah.
Do you realize that like that is the most insane thing ever? Like
I
that,
don't know. I don't have a gauge on it, I guess. I don't really
yeah.
know.
No, that is it's like saying your first time, running is like at the Olympics. Like it's that level of just that's
Mm.
oh well maybe not because obviously you've done the work and trained. It's not like you have it's it's amazing. That's what I'm trying to say is it's really, really incredible. And it speaks to your talent because I'm sure plenty of people who auditioned had, long theater resumes, but that's just
For sure. But again, it wasn't like an overnight thing in any way. It was
oh yeah,
like by that point I had been submitting myself for things for 6 years and like I had been in school and like so the yeah, it was a step-by-step thing for sure.
100%. So doing the workshop for Smash led to Romeo and Juliet.
No, I mean Smash happened and that was a great process and I had a great time. And then about 5 months later, I want to say 4 months later, I booked Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. That was, I don't know, it was a few rounds of self-tapes, and I happened to be in India at the time when they called me back for like an in-person thing with Sam Gold,
Hmm.
our director. And so I like quickly like changed my return flight and came back to New York and did that audition. And then there was like a fight callback and I failed it. I was out. Like they called and said, "Yep, sorry, you're out though." And we like pushed and pushed and we were like, he can like he can train, he can do whatever. And they were like, "No, I'm sorry." And then 2 weeks after that, they just called again and said, "Is he like still interested? I think
No
we have
way.
like we don't know what part, but we want him to be in the show in some capacity." And so would he be interested in being like part of the world of it? Yeah.
What was your reaction to that?
I was so excited. It was like a dream project. The theater was like, I wanted to be in, that was like the kind of show I wanted to be in. And so it was really exciting. I wasn't, Smash I loved, but I quickly figured out that musicals aren't my thing. Plays were really what I had fallen in love with and wanted to do. And so I was so excited to be getting a chance to do the kind of work I wanted to be doing. It was really exciting. Yeah.
How did your parents react?
They had no clue what was going on because they don't know theater, they don't know Broadway. They were like, "Oh wow!" And then they were like, but they were very excited for me. They were happy that things were going well. They were definitely like scared about like leaving school,
Hmm.
but over time, I think they've come to terms with that in some ways.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, you're like doing the thing you went to school to do, so at least that's,
yeah.
pretty incredible. I mean, did you have any expectations?
I guess not. I guess if anything, I thought it would be like the workshop that I did, but it was nothing like that. It was a totally different process. It was a great process, but so different. The show was so physical. We're like climbing on ladders all the time, and there was so much fight choreography and dancing and like songs in the middle. And then it's like Shakespeare text. And I was understudying parts as well in that show, and that made it like I was just learning so much. It felt like a huge crash course in how to do Broadway.
Did you go on as Romeo?
No, but I went on as Paris once, but as Romeo, Kit Connor, he played Romeo. He never dropped a show. We were all so impressed.
And how long was the run?
6 months or 5 months. Yeah.
And he didn't miss one show.
He didn't miss one show. Yeah.
But you were understudying that role.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
surprised you didn't get like just one show at least because you had learned the part and, just to have a
I
show.
mean, I was fine with it. I was doing the show every night in my role, so it was still like I was having a great time.
Did you
Yeah.
have any meaningful conversations at the stage door?
Maybe I couldn't tell you to be honest. I don't understand like fan culture that well, and so I think every time I went to the stage door, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta like just smile and get out of here. Like that was kind of I was really scared always going through that stage door, especially because they were like so many people and they were here for like Rachel Zegler and Kit Connor, and so it was just a very intimidating experience for me.
Interesting. When you are fans of work, do you not get like attached in that way?
In what sense?
Like, are there people that you would like be at the stage door freaking out over, or you're just not?
No, I've never stage doored. I don't think I've never like really thought about celebrities in that way. But maybe being part of the industry and working is also like kind of detached me from that. Like it's made me realize like that stuff is it's cool and it's great to have fans because that means your work is resonating, but that's also not why most people are there.
Yeah, of course.
Um, yeah, so it's I don't know. I'm still like grappling with that. Like I don't really know what my relationship to that is.
I guess it's also different if you don't like I grew up going to the stage door for Broadway shows like as a kid, so that is also different when you have like those memories of being on the other side of the
Yeah.
gig thing.
I
Um,
think also my philosophy was always like, I don't want to meet you because I want to work with you. Like, I want to meet you on set when we're working together. I don't want to
mm,
meet you till then. It was just like this like thing I had created in my head, but that was always where I was at. Yeah.
yeah, no, totally. What did you learn from working with Rachel Zegler and Kit Connor?
Oh my God, so much, I guess. But mostly I learned about the stamina it takes to do a theater show, like 8 shows a week, especially a physical show like that. It just requires constant self-care, physical care, but also mental care. And coming out of school, I had to like transition like to work-life balance and figuring out what that was, adulthood more generally. I think it was like a lot of things happening at once, and they all kind of coagulated together in an odd way. But it was also cool being in a show that was like very successful. Like it taught me that these art can be very important to people, and when it does resonate, it's very rewarding. I think it's important to strive for work that resonates. Like there's work that I would do for myself, but there's also work that I would do because it's important for it to exist.
What was the hardest part about being a part of that show?
Just the physicalness of that show. I was not used to doing theater. I was not used to like I was a dancer growing up. Like through in my like third grade through high school, I was doing hip hop and I led
Oh,
like hip hop team in my school and stuff. So I was used to dancing, but I was not used to like the kind of marathon that is theater on Broadway, especially. Um, so yeah, learning to take care of myself was the biggest hurdle for sure.
just because of like the late nights or the repetition?
Late nights, you come home sore like every few days. There were so many injuries on that show. I had to go to the doctor so many times. Everyone had to, like, yeah. And yeah, that was like probably the biggest hurdle.
Did you figure out like a routine that worked for you eventually?
No, like not at all. I think I was always like, wow, this is a lot. And even now in this current show I'm doing, which is way more chill, it's still like I'm trying to find that balance of like how to take care of myself. But I think it's in the trying. It's good enough sometimes. Yeah.
So Romeo and Juliet closed, it feels like fairly recently. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. It closed in like February, mid-February.
yeah. And then now you're already in another huge show. Did that audition process happen when you were still in Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah. It happened in like December while I was in Romeo and Juliet, and that was a pretty quick process, honestly. It was like 2 auditions and done. That went well, and then I got it, and I was excited. But I was also like kind of hoping for a break after Romeo and Juliet, just because I was so tired. But I was very excited to be in another play that I really just believed in. Yeah.
Did you have any break in between?
No, unfortunately. There was like a week of overlap, so that week was kind of crazy. But yeah.
So you'd
And
rehearse
now,
during the day and then like
hmm?
rehearse for John Proctor during the day and then do Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Just for that one week.
And that was the last week of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
That must have been insane.
It
Loading.
was insane and emotionally insane because it was like all the closing feelings of Romeo and Juliet combined with the like introduction feelings of John Proctor. It was like I was compartmentalizing so hard. It was like so crazy. That week was definitely crazy.
Wow. So how has this experience been different?
I mean, Danya is a director. Danya Tamor is our director for the show. She is so different from Sam Gold, and learning to work under her process was very different and exciting. And also in Romeo and Juliet, I had an ensemble part, so I wasn't speaking. But in this show, I have like a role, and it's just a different thing. And I find it more fulfilling personally. And so it's very exciting finding ways to keep things novel and present every day. Yeah, different challenges for sure than that Romeo and Juliet.
The response, at least I've seen online, has been so positive to this play.
I'm glad. I'm glad people are liking it because I feel like it's an important show and it's important that people see it for many reasons. I think it's reviving conversations that we should have been having all along. Yeah. It's really fulfilling. I mean, like I said, part of why I want to do art is to impact people and change the world for the better. And I feel like a show like this is doing that. And it's forcing people to confront themselves, confront the people around them. And this show especially makes you realize that the villains, so to speak, are usually demonized in art, and our show forces people to confront that sometimes it's nice people, sometimes it's the good people in your community, and how do you balance those things, both of which are true. These are good people that did these bad things, and both are true simultaneously. And it's hard for people to hold those two things. But I think our show forces people to like hold many, many contradictions and accept many, many contradictions. And I think that's a good thing for people to think about. I'm glad people are thinking about it.
Yeah. For those who don't know, can you just give like a little overview of the show and your character?
Yeah. No spoilers.
Yeah.
John Proctor, the villain. It's about a show about these English students who are studying the Crucible in their junior lit class. They're in Appalachian, Georgia, and they are starting to discover kind of these parallels between the events happening in their community and the Crucible. It is this whole piece on it's on the Me Too movement, but also sexual assault and hierarchies and girlhood at the end of really girlhood is such a big part of it. Yeah.
And then who do you play?
I play Mason Adams. He is this kind of young boy who is not really been confronted with any of these ideas at the beginning of the play, but as it continues, he becomes more and more curious as to what's really going on here.
That's so cool. So when you got the audition, what were your initial, like what was your reaction to the story and how has that evolved now that the play is, shared with an audience?
Yeah. I think initially I was definitely like, whoa, it was like a very, even it being a short play, it was holding a lot of massive themes. And I think I was intimidated by that in a lot of ways. But getting to the actual process of doing it, Danya and Kimberly Bellflower is our playwright, they just had such a clarity on what they were trying to say and how they wanted to say it. And it taught me to like have a lot of humility as an actor and give over the reins to your director or whoever sometimes and have build that trust in a relationship and treat the process even as an actor, which can feel very individual at times, treat it as a collaboration. Yeah, and trust that the storytelling is going to happen. A lot of trust. Yeah.
Wow. Have you been inspired as a writer?
Absolutely. I mean, Kimberly's dialogue is so punchy and quick and like intelligent, and it touches on so many things without ever like making it feel forceful. I'm very inspired by it. I hope I can be like that one day. Yeah.
Is writing a Broadway play something that you see yourself doing?
Not a play, but I love screenplays. I write screenplays. I primarily enjoy writing for film and TV. I've never tried writing a play, but the medium is very different than screenwriting and scares me. Um, Maybe one day, we'll see.
Why?
Because it requires a different understanding of the medium. It's just such a different medium is the big part of it. It requires it like the focus is on human conversation usually, whereas in film you can tell a story with a series of frames with
Yeah.
just action, separate locations. You can tell it with lighting changes, with all these different tools.
Mhm.
And with plays, you really have to have an understanding of conversation and dialogue in a different way. And it would definitely be fun to try it, but it's not my forte.
Yeah. How do you handle rejection?
I have this thing called the 36-hour grieving period. I just allow myself to wallow for 36 hours. And then after 36 hours, I'm like, okay, now it's time to move on. And then I kind of get going again.
Where did that come from? Was that something that you just like made for yourself or
I don't know, actually. I feel like maybe someone told me this in like fifth or sixth grade,
Hmm.
and it just became this tool I employed across the board for everything, not just like acting, but any rejection or something sad or Like, obviously, if it's something major and you can't really control your feelings, that's what it is. But for all these kind of small cases or like getting rejected from a role, it's nice to have a structure to like
Yeah.
confronting it and dealing with it and moving on. Yeah.
Have you had projects that it was really hard to stop after 36 hours?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, there were projects where, because as an actor, you develop just by nature of like working on a side, even like a scene, you start to develop like a kind of personal relationship with this character, and then not getting to fulfill that relationship is a bit of a heartbreak. And there were a couple projects where I was like, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was like so sad that I couldn't get to do it. But also over time, the more and more I've auditioned, the more and more easy it's been to see that sometimes like it has nothing to do with your acting. No matter how good of an audition you give, sometimes you're just not the right fit for the role, and that's okay. Sometimes they need someone taller or someone different, and it's not about you. They really love you as an actor. They just you're not the right fit for the role.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have such a healthy mentality and balance. It's amazing. Do you feel that?
No, not at all. I feel like hyperactive and my mind is I'm saying this today and I'll say something else tomorrow. Yeah. But on the whole, I feel like I found certain balances. Um, and keep trying, I guess.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
When I was still kind of contemplating between being a doctor and being an actor, I talked to someone who was a few years above me in high school who had ended up going to USC for film. And he also was intended to be a doctor. There's a bit of a pattern here with like brown people in the Bay Area. Like they all have a similar attitude about this. But he kind of told me like when he was really contemplating it, he came to the realization that like if he didn't become a doctor, someone else would come in and kind of be that doctor and take his place and things would be okay. But if he didn't become a filmmaker and tell the stories he wanted to tell, no one else could do that. No one else would be that and tell those stories. Something about that, something about how personal this art form, this career is, how much of your honesty and authenticity you're required to bring to it, like that really has stuck with me.
Hmm. When you're dealing with rejection or just the unknown or all of the challenging parts or you're just in a funk, how do you get yourself out of it?
I've kind of, I think before, whereas I was really attached to like structure and routine in certain ways, like having to deal with all of this has kind of taught me that no plan is the best plan sometimes. And it's kind of nice feeling more free and present to the moment and knowing that things will come as they come. And all it really matters is putting in my best work, working on my art and working on my own things and creating. And that's really what I want to be doing. And the work will come, hopefully. I think that's the attitude I've developed so far. Yeah.
Do you have plans to go back to school after the show closes?
No plan is the best plan. I don't know. Yeah, I have no clue. And if it happens, it'll happen and I'm there for it. And if not, that's okay and I'm there for it.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I am so inspired by that. Um,
Oh my God, no, don't be. That's crazy. I feel like I don't know anything. I'm always asking for advice.
you're showing up and clearly it's working. So,
I feel very grateful to be where I am right now.
would you consider yourself like a private person generally?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, again, that's part of why I like acting and this medium. I
Hmm.
like film for this reason. I think I really like my private life. I really like being kind of just a normal person. I like, hanging out with friends and family and like picnic in the park or coffee shops, but I don't really want to be, I don't like the idea of like being recognized too much for work or things because I want my work to speak for itself and myself to be a bit detached from that. Because I feel like then the illusion remains as an actor. Like the less you know about the person playing the role, the more real the illusion can feel sometimes. And I hope to maintain that as much as possible. I think that's part of where my privacy in this comes from. I don't know.
As a writer, do you feel more exposed because it's like your thoughts and world
I
that
do feel more exposed than I am as an actor. But again, it's a similar thing where there's like a veil, um, where people don't necessarily know how to connect all the dots that say this is Nihar here. Like there are aspects of me there, but unless you really know what you're looking for, you might not see it. But it's more pronounced than it is in acting. Writing is definitely, I find myself having to be a lot more vulnerable at times.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Would you write something that you also act in?
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, so there are some roles that I would love to play that don't exist, and I don't know if they will. And I feel like someone has to go out and make them. And so I would love to make those roles and play them, fulfill those dreams. Yeah, I'm like one of the short films I made a while ago. I acted in as well.
What what are the like short-term goals right now in general, like not just career, just in life?
Mm. I want to read more. I want to read more books. I want to spend more time with friends. I have a guitar and I feel like I've been ignoring it and I want to know how to play it. So that education, I do miss education and I've been taking some like online courses on the most goofy things. Like right now I'm doing one that's about like the morality of murder, like the ethics of murder. I'm not going to. I'm just like taking a like yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Education just in and of itself is so fun, especially outside of the context of school, because then you can kind of just learn about what you want to learn about.
Yeah.
I'd love to be good at chess. I love chess. I have my little chess book here that I've been doing.
Cool. Must make you such a better actor too, like just having empathy for people and all, you know.
Yeah, no, for real. I remember this quote in our English classroom. Crazy. Now I'm like John Proctor, like English classroom, and like that's made me think so much about my own high school experience. But we had this quote up in our English classroom every day, and it just said, "Empathy is the highest form of intelligence."
Hmm.
And I just think about that sometimes when it comes to art, especially.
Yeah. What have you learned from working with Sadie Sink?
Oh my God, she is such a humble actor. Like she is a killer actor. And she has completely gives all the space and generosity to everyone else. And that kind of humility as an actor and trust in like a working relationship is incredible. And yeah, she's so, so cool. Very inspired by her.
That's awesome. You've shared the stage with like such phenomenal people already. So,
And I feel so lucky. I don't know how this happened. I feel so lucky. Yeah.
oh, because you're talented and you work hard and you show up and, you know,
Yeah.
it
That's
happens.
what it is, I guess. Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out who dreams of doing the things that you're doing?
Mm. Like have absolutely zero doubts. Like it kind of like this one thing someone told me once. It's like this little thought experiment. If you if there was nothing in your way and you could genuinely achieve anything that you wanted, how far would you go? Like what would that be for you? And then that's the goal. Like don't think about hurdles, don't think about obstacles. Leave that all out and think about genuinely if you could do anything, what would that be? And then proceed.
Do you have zero doubts?
No, I have so many, but at least having that like that thought experiment in my mind, it kind of have a clear view of like, the clearing in the forest sort of thing.
Okay. What is
Yeah.
that for you? Like that ideal?
I would like to start a production house and be making movies, but also acting. But I want to really change media and representation in media and the stories we tell have a huge impact on the psyche of like the people we live with. And that is a big part of why I do art. And I want to make art that changes people's minds and forces people to have empathy, more and more empathy, especially looking at where we live now and the times we live in. And we need to find more love for everyone. And I want to bring that to my work. I want to make people confront that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You're amazing. Thank you so much for
No,
sh-
thank you.
um what do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know. I don't really care too much about legacy. I like all that matters is like now. Like if I'm remembered, I hope I'm remembered by my family and the people that come after me. I hope my work is remembered. I hope my work carries a legacy. But for myself, I'm me.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.